Hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Karsh Goblin and this is the Goblin Cave, and you're listening to sounds of Syrinscape, some background audio going on just to liven up the stream, because Syrinscape is amazing for when you're doing role playing. You can just put it in the background, use your tablet, use your phone, or if you've got a laptop or computer, you can load onto that as well, and you can just have different changes of atmosphere for your games that you're running, and even changing the scenes, etc., etc. This is the Street Battle from the Syrinscape's Sci-Fi collection, and it's a little bit about superheroes and bits and pieces. So I always try to have something like Syrinscape on the background, just because they're so amazing and it sets the scene. Now today, as you can kind of see in the overlay, we're looking at, that's a little bit better. We're looking at Mutants and Masterminds, the deluxe hero book. So this is the third edition. I was speaking to a couple of our players a couple of weeks ago about our book club and about superhero games and stuff like that. And I was told this is one of our players' go-to superheroes game. Now, there's a couple out there, as we've kind of been doing a few superhero games recently, and this is one of like our players' absolute go-to. This is the must for them. Now, I liked Masks and Generation. It's the Power by Apocalypse style. I do like that. I like Sentinels as well. Again, very similar style with the open world. This is if you played Pathfinder, or if you've played Dungeons and Dragons, you'll see a lot of similarities, because this is open license Wizards of the Coast. Now, I say it is open license Wizards of the Coast, but it's not 5th edition. This is closer to 3rd edition than anything else. Yet a lot of things are built off that edition. So in the back, it does have this is open license, etc., etc. So that was interesting to find, actually, when I was skimming through this. The other thing is, it has the best explanation of rules that I have seen, period. For a rules medium game, which I do class as rules medium, it's probably light to medium, or medium to light, depending on how far you want to go. But it's really, really simple, and it's just explained beautifully. And for a book which is, it's not too thick, it's really done well from what I can see. So you can find it. You can find stuff from. Mutants and Masterminds is a superhero book, superhero style action book. Comic book, you could do it as well. It's less comic book than Sentinels. Sentinels is absolutely comic book up, as in build up from comic book. This is a little bit more just superhero style, rather than the real pure comic book as Sentinels was. Masks is maybe around the same edge of like how much this is. But it's still, that's not to detract from it. It still looks really cool. So it's a rules medium, possibly rules medium to light or light to medium. It'd be close into that. And it's from Green Ronin Publishing, so I couldn't fit publishing, but Green Ronin Pub is actually their Twitter handle too. So that's pretty cool. On top of that, you can go to greenronin.com and you can buy your books there, or you can talk to your local retailer and go, hey, can you get some of these in for me? They were really cool. I was very fortunate to pick up quite a lot of these. Actually, I think I picked up someone's collection for really cheap, or secondhand. The problem is, I never actually got the core book. So I picked up someone's 2nd edition collection, and I never got the core book. And so I couldn't really run it. And I didn't know where to get it back in the day. So, and also I bought like that thick of books, like that many, like pretty much the entirety, but didn't have the core, so I was out of money at the time. So I like comic book styles, I like hero style stuff. I was actually I was looking for stuff back in the day, like when I did this, to run a superhero game. And because I didn't get the core book, I went, stuff it, I'll find something that I can use and utilize the components of this into what I was using. And I did a superhero game from, Shadowrun 5th edition. And it worked really well. I was just picking and choosing stuff from the Mutants and Masterminds as inspirations and using the rules for Shadowrun 5th edition because it kind of worked. It was fun. It just wasn't built for it, but it was really easily adaptable. You just go, okay, cybernetics. Well, you have things like Iron Man suits with all the as a over the top protective armor, and you've got cybernetics and all these types of things. And it's like you can build a superhero from that, and you got magic as well. Anyway, back to this one. So that's it. This is the book. It's got a lot of stuff with it. It really looks pretty too. So I picked this up really quickly after that discussion with our cast member, and yeah, I'm impressed. So let's flick through. So I'm just going to move that to that. There we go. So it's got a fair bit of detail. Might not be able to read everything. And as a disclaimer, as I always mention, I do have a little bit of a shade filter over the capture. So I've got a shade filter over the capture just because of the bright white, because we're coming off PDFs on these, and so just dimming it down. It's about 10%, maybe 15 to 20%. I can't even remember how much it is, but just to stop that brightness on it. So so the best example of that is by having the two cover images. So we've got the cover art down below, which is unfiltered, and the one over there, oops, that way, is the filtered one. So you can just see how much darker it is. So the images in the game, so in the PDF itself, you can kind of now get an idea of just how much darker they are. It is a very bright and vibrant book with a lot of bright and vibrant artwork. And I love how they've color-coded things. I like this. So we've got introduction, we've got the basics, we've got street origins. So this is kind of your character creation there. Goes from page 23 to 100. So yeah, that's a bit of a big one, but it does go into detail about essentially powers. Powers is a big thing. You've got your abilities, you've got your skills, and your skills you'll find is pretty similar to what you'll be used to if you've played, again, Pathfinder or Dungeons and Dragons. It's a bit of a modern version of it, but they're kind of pretty same. And it's just an adaptation into a modern environment. You've got advantages, goes for a while, and you've got powers. Powers is something you might try to touch on. And then you've also got gadgets, gear, action adventure, game mastering, Emerald City, and Freedom City. I've actually got I think I've got the Emerald City book. It's a nice little thick source book, really good, and has a lot of details in the city. So I've got that as well. Glossary and tables and etc. etc. So it's a pretty decent book, 380 pages at least from the character sheet. Artwork, as I said, very bright and vivid, really, really good, high quality. So actually, we'll have a look at what is a role-playing game, because every company comes at this as a different approach, and I find it interesting just to see how they apply their ideas to role-playing. And everyone comes at it very differently, so everyone writes these very differently. So we'll have a look at this. I've just remembered I've got to actually use my my glasses, my zoomers, mainly because I get headaches if I don't. And there's a little bit of zoom as well from this. So, a role-playing game, abbreviated RPG, has players taking on the roles of specific characters in a story. In the case of Mutants and Masterminds, it's superheroes in adventures like those of comic books. So there's your comic book reference right there. In essence, it is like when you used to pretend to be a superhero as a kid, just with rules and dice and sitting around a table with friends, rather than running around in a homemade cape, although you can still wear a cape if you really want. Some humour in that. I like it. I like it. So these things can really just put the gamers like, this is what we're looking at, and this is the type of humour or the type of seriousness it is. How they write these is really important. Kind of why I like to read these. So One participant in the game takes the role of the Game Master, GM for short. Game Master sets up the story, tells other players what is happening, and controls the actions of the villains and supporting characters. The other participants, the players, each take the role of one specific hero. The main characters of the story, the players choose their roles, their actions, and reactions. Characters in the story controlled by the characters in the story controlled by the players are called the player characters for PCs, while characters controlled by the Game Master are non-player characters, NPCs. In a normal... An RPG is a process of cooperative storytelling. Yes, I love that line. That's what I use, cooperative storytelling. The Game Master lays out a situation or a scenario for the players, such as you hear an alarm coming from the First National Bank. The players then choose how their characters react. We rush to the bank to see what's going on. Things proceed in a back and forth manner, with the GM explaining the unfolding story, how the supervillain is robbing the bank and trying to escape with his ill-gotten gains, etc. The players deciding what their characters will do, how one hero swoops in and stops the villain's getaway car, and another tears off the car's door, and so forth. In the process, the whole group creates an exciting story, just like you would find in comic books. All the rules to play Mutants and Masterminds are found in this book. However, you only need one essential rule. If it makes fun and is interesting for your group, then do it. No set mechanical rules is going to encompass every possible situation, and sometimes the rules will return odd or even nonsense results. What happens when that happens? Feel free to overlook the rules and do what must be fun. Oh, that's nice. That's one advantage of a role-playing game over a conventional board game or computer game. You can bend the rules if they get in the way of fun. So, not all games have that. So there used to be I think it was, trying to remember where I remember this one. The golden rule of one, or the golden one rule, or something like that. I think was in. I think it was Vampire the Masquerade Second Edition. Like, this is going back a bit, where it just says if something gets in the way, ignore it. It's pretty much that, but not all games have that. And I think it's important that you can have that, because it is about having fun. It is about telling your own story, and sometimes the rules get in the way of the story. And groups are hard. Like, some groups don't want to change that, but you need to have that up front. As like, let's just change this. That doesn't make sense for our storyline, for our narrative. Let's just make this as a rule, and we'll move on, and etc. So yeah. So what is Mutants and Masterminds? In Mutants and Masterminds RPG, you take the role of costume superheroes safeguarding the world from threats ranging from the scheming super criminals to alien invasions, hulking monsters, natural disasters, and would-be conquerors. This book contains all the information you need to play the game. The basics chapter starts off with a quick overview on how your game works. After you read it, flip through the rest of the book, see various options for creating heroes. Then you read the following chapters. They'll lead to see. Wow. They'll lead to see which options appeal to you the most. Sorry about the yawning. I had like 12 hours sleep, and yeah, I'm yawning. That's really weird. So I think that's really cool that it does say, like, okay, read through these, like skim through these bits and whatnot. Yeah, like, read this section, then you can go to the others, and then come back and etc. It's yeah. The characters you create and play in Mutants and Masterminds are like heroes in their own comic book, television show, or movie. Your characters might be a patriot subjected to an experiment to create a government super soldier, an alien from a distant world, unfamiliar with Earth and the human customs, protecting the world from cosmic evil. I like the unaccustomed to human, like I like that, unfamiliar to human customs. A brilliant inventor whose inventions might have served the greed of less honourable men and has not taken them and had not, whose inventions might have served the greed of less honourable men had he not taken them and turned them into weapons to fight for justice. Tony Stark. A teenager coping with having strange powers in addition to those of other difficulties of adolescence. Let's see. Spider-Man. I watched that last night. Yeah, you can. The tropes are there. You can link them to pretty much anything. There's a lot of tropes, even in DC. You can find them as well. Same thing. The Flash, maybe, for that one. But anyway, an immortal champion of the gods who has fought the legendary forces of darkness throughout history. Daughter of a legendary hero trained to follow the father's footsteps, but longing for a normal life. A master of the arcane arts, protecting humanity from the forces of it beyond its ken. An android with the abilities beyond those of humans, searching for meaning and concepts outside, or such as goodness and humanity. A hellspawn avenger sent to Earth to visit retribution upon the wicked, or pretty much anything else you can imagine. So there's some concepts there. So we're not going to go into more of that. We're going to go into the core mechanics, because this is what I meant by this is. Oh wait, we've got what you need to play. Here we go. What you need to play is this book. Contains all the rules. Cool. Copy of a character sheet. Yep. Pencil and scratch paper. Yep. At least 120-sided dice available from pretty much any game hobby store. Yep. That's about it. It doesn't even have smaller dice, just the D20. Okay. Oh. Okay. It just has D20s. I'm just trying to skim here. No, it's just D20s. Yep, just D20s. Okay. Sure. Interesting. It's a D20 only system. I haven't seen a D20 only system for a while. I can't remember the last one I even saw. That's amazing. So again, amazing pictures, amazing artwork and images. Just amazing. Yeah, I love that. Princess. Okay, so this is the core mechanics. Just this. That is it. And I love it. Absolutely love it. So, Mutants and Masterminds uses standard or core game mechanic to resolve actions. Whenever a character attempts an action with a chance of failure, do the following. Roll 20-sided dice. Add any relevant modifiers for the game traits like abilities, skills, powers, or circumstances to the number rolled. Compare that number to a number called a difficulty class, or abbreviated DC. If the result equals or exceeds the difficulty class set by the GM based on the circumstances, the effort succeeds. If the result is lower than the difficulty class, it fails. This simple mechanic is used for nearly everything in Mutants and Masterminds, with variations based on what modifiers are made to the roll, what determines the difficulty class, and the exact degree of success or failure. So that's about it. It's that simple. So D20 plus modifiers versus difficulty class. Done. And we can shut down the stream. We're done. Okay. No. That's it. It's so simple. So I think that's really amazing. I think it's really, really cool. That it's just that simple. Now we'll go into other bits which you might not be as familiar with. So this is another part here where your attributes. So your attributes in most of these D20 style Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, etc., go from 1 to 18. In this one, -5 to 20. That's a bit strange. So 0 is unremarkable and average. So you can get below 0 to a -5. And we've got here that, where we've got here, a rank of 2 is well above average. A rank of 5 is truly exceptional. A rank of 7 is about as most that can be expected from a normal human being. So 7, so +7, is like the best of the best humans. And of course, then you get to cosmics. It's like then you get to above that. So that's kind of different. I like that. I do like that they've moved the bar. They haven't just used the same bar of the 1 to 18. They've moved it to -5 to 20, but 7 being, this is like the most a normal human being could ever be. Like the top of the field, brilliant, genius, whatever, or athlete, etc. That's 7. But the scale goes to 20. So that's a really cool thing. I like that. So we've got skills there as well, and advantages. So halfway between skills and powers, advantages are minor benefits that a character have, allowing them to do things other characters cannot. They range from special combat moves to things like financial resources, contacts, and so forth. Many advantages do not have rank, and others have 1 rank. A character either has advantage, so character either has the advantage and the benefits that it grants, or it does not. A character may have multiple ranks like abilities, skills, measuring their effectiveness. For example, details on various advantages, or in the advantages chapter, etc. So when a character using Mutants and Masterminds table, they are important to keep in mind. Each rank represents a range of measures times rank of 4 means rank of 4 is actually all measures between 1 to 2 minutes. Oh yeah, that's so. There's something on the other side here. That's the, yeah. So that's the rank of, yeah. This is something that's weird as well. This is a distance equals rank plus speed rank. So this is for something like, yeah. But it's also got distance, it's got volumes, it's got mass. That's a thing in itself, but it's all there. So when you're doing your powers, when you're doing bits and pieces, it's there. You can, like, it's all the measurements are there for you, and it's really spelled out clearly. I won't go into it because I'd prefer you get the book and get excited to it, so I'm not going to spoil all the details of things. Just know that they have bits and pieces which are all there and amazing. So what have we got here? We've also got checks. We've done that, which is essentially your D20 plus ability plus versus the difficulty class. Check, done. Your throwing distance equals your strength rank minus the mass rank. Your time rank equals your distance rank minus speed rank. These things are just done. They're all there. It's so simple. I think it's probably less a rules medium. I would actually looking to be like rules light even for this game, which sounds weird that it's not a Powered by Apocalypse or a Blades game, but it's still able to do rules light. Still able to finish that rules light fitting, because the rules are so basic. Like, you got 1 check. That's the only check you ever need. And the other checks, you've got this table above, which does all that type of stuff. Done. Yeah, I think it's really, really simple. So I'm going to go up to the back top again, and let's have a look at let's have a look at some powers. Just see what they've got, how they can, like where the powers are. So 143. Let's have a look at 143. Power costs. So where we go. Acquiring powers. Players spend power points on various powers for their heroes, like acquiring skills and other traits. The power is made up of one or more effects, possibly with different modifiers, which increase or decrease the cost of the effect. Effects can be used to create a number of different powers. A hero with concealment effect, page 51, could use the power to create a power called blending, blur, cloak, invisibility, shadow meld, or anything else appropriate to the character you wish to play. It's all a matter of how powerful the effect is and what modifiers. So what modifiers have been placed to increase or decrease the performance. Another way to think of it is that this book is filled with effects, but your character sheet is filled with your powers. Okay. So these are the effects, but the powers are built of other things. Okay. So power costs. Power effects are acquired in ranks, like ranks for other traits. The more ranks in the effect, the greater its effect. The greater its effect. Each effect of power has a standard cost per rank. Okay. Modifiers change how an effect works, making it more effective, i.e., extra, or less effective, a flaw. Modifiers have ranks just like traits have. Extras increase the power's cost, while flaws decrease it. Some modifiers increase in the effect's cost per rank, others apply to unchanging cost to the power's total. This is getting a bit complex really quickly. These are called flat modifiers. For information, see modifiers, etc. The final cost of a power is determined by the base effect cost, modified by extras and flaws, multiplied by the power's rank, with the flat modifiers. Okay, yeah. So power cost equals base effect plus extras minus flaws times rank plus flat modifiers. That's a lot to work out, but that's more character creation than anything. Character creation, character progression, but it's not something you need to think about all the time. So this is very you don't have to do this as much. So that's not too bad when it comes to thinking of things. So just as I know that sounds really weird and really complex, but it's not a constant thing you have to remember, and I think that's okay. I think it's okay. It's okay. So effect types: you have attack, you got control, you got defense, you got general, you've got movement, you've got sensory, etc. How powers work: flat checks. So in some cases, you may be required to make an effect check to determine how well an effect works. A power check is just like any other check: d20 plus power rank, plus applicable modifiers versus the difficulty, etc. Done. Same system right across the board. Love it. Routine checks. Many effects allow for routine checks involving the use of generally specific in the effect. So their use generally specified in the effect's general description. See routine checks, basic powers. Opposed effect checks. In some cases, usually when one effect is used directly against another or against a particular trait, like the ability like an ability or a skill. An opposed check is called see opposed checks in the basics. If the context is if the contest is entirely a matter of whose power is greater, the comparison check, see for page 14, is called for. Okay, I like that it's actually referring back to, and it's actually saying which page and things like that. We haven't gone into those pages, but I can see right now, page 14 done. That's really, really good editing and writing in the page, like in the book itself, to go, okay, so it's here, but it's referring to that because it's already been dealt with in the previous pages in the basic checks area. That's pretty cool. Effect parameters. Each effect has certain parameters that describe the time needed to use the effect, the subject or target, the distance it works at, and so forth. The basic effect parameters are action, range, duration. Okay. So it goes into action. I'm assuming it goes into range and duration. So these are the names, the effects, and it goes the type and the action, range, duration. So there's quite a few things you've got here. So you've got communication, you've got dazzle, damage, of course, energy control, growth, healing, immunities, immortality, okay, nullifier, powerlifting, protection, quickness, regeneration, speed, super speed, swimming, teleport, pretty much whatever you'd want to do in a superhero game, they've got bits and pieces for it. And I think that's really cool. So I don't think we'll go into too much detail. I'm just going to say, go out and buy this book. If you ever want to do a role-playing game, like I'm trying to keep these as short as possible, so I don't do as much spoilers as possible, because I want people to go out and buy these books. If you want to do a superheroes game that has a similar feel to Pathfinder or Dungeons and Dragons, I think this is it. I've had people, like, as I said before, I was doing a superhero game and I didn't have a superhero book for it, so I bought these books. I just didn't have a core rule book, so I then used what I had, which was Shadowrun, and converted that homebrewed into what people now call it. It worked, and Shadowrun actually works for it really well. I didn't take something like Dungeons and Dragons, built for fantasy, and just butcher it to try to retrofit it to work. This is something which will work. It's similar, but not in a huge way, but it still has that D20 mechanic, D20 modifiers, DC, straight across the board, very simple. Just remembering where it applies is going to be the new thing to it. And I think it would work really well. The other games we reviewed and had a look at, like Master and Generation and the Sentinel Comics, have the newer style of the Powered by Apocalypse, where it's more narrative based, less dice rolling. This is going to be more dice rolling, but it's still because it's so minimal dice rolling, it's going to have quite a bit of narrative in there, and I think it'll work really good. It covers everything you want with stuff. There's a lot of source books. I know I got them. I really think this is going to be a good one to have a look at, like a good one to pick up and have a look at without me going into the details too much or spoilers, or you just go and pick it up. I think I picked this up for $20 on PDF just before the show. I think it was $20 from Drive-Thru RPG, and I picked up the book itself, the core book, from my local game store. Well, I say local. I do online for my local game stores, because my local game store is a card store now, because that's the thing. And the only things they've got in it now, we'll have a roll of Dungeons and Dragons, which are almost always sold out, and then they've got cards and miniatures, and that's it. That's the same store I bought all the other stuff from Mutants and Masterminds, all my collection from Mutants and Masterminds secondhand. They don't really do that anymore. So yeah, so I go online. But if you can support your local game store, go for it. Unfortunately, in my case, I can't. It's just that's not what they do. But anyway, as I was saying, I think this is really cool. That's my opinion, of course, and apparently reviews aren't opinions. Blech. Anyway, someone did that to me the other day. Just yeah, but the artwork's really cool. The the writing's actually really good. Like not just the writing, but it actually refers back to things. Often you don't get that in books. Like that's like poor editing. I've seen a lot of books. This actually says page this. Like I was in page like 100 plus there, and it says I'll refer to this page. Yep, okay, sure. And it's already there. Really good. So I think it's worth it. Green Ronin Publishing do a lot of the I'd say side RPG stuff. So I've got a lot from Green Ronin, and they do great stories. They do great world building, and they really do great systems. So I would always support Green Ronin from what they do. They have some amazing IPs under their banner, and seems to be just one of them. It's not as one of the oldest IPs out there. Mutants and Mastermind, I think, is only like 2002, so under 20 years. But 20 years is still a long time to refine a system, and this is the third edition. So the deluxe third edition handbook is the one to get. It's essentially the third edition. It's got everything in it. It combines previous books into one. So you don't have to get as many source books. Although it's still nice to get source books because, again, you're helping fund other people. Yeah. And, yeah, really simple. Oh, I should have mentioned too. Degrees of success. I missed that in the thing. Before we do finish. The degrees of success, it's not just equaling and beating the DC. There's also degrees of success. If you equal or beat the DC, you get 1 degree of success. And if you beat it by 5, then you get 2, by 10, 3, etc. So each multiple of 5. If you fail, it's you get minus 1 degree of success, or you fail by 1. If you fail by 5 or more, it's 2, and etc. going downwards. So that's also a thing in this. I like degrees of success. Or hits, often referred to. Some people don't like it. I do. Sometimes most things are going to be you either do or don't. You either succeed or you don't. But other times it's varied consequences exactly is absolutely nice. Welcome in Shadowna. So my glasses aren't working very well for actually reading text, and they're designed for reading text. I might actually have to go to the optometrist. It's been asking me to go back like for 6 months, 8 months now. Yes, very consequences are nice, but a lot of times it's either pass or fail, and the GM can then go from there. But it is nice sometimes to have that like success for a lot more or not less. And when you're playing superheroes where like the attributes start at -5, 0 being normal, and then like 7 being like +7 being like the top of normal humanity. But these attributes go up to 20. You can get those really over the top successes. And depending on how your narrative style is, you could have buildings crumble, or you could have like massive explosions and things like that. So you could actually overdo that like amounts of success and really embellish it, because it is comic book style. So that's one way of actually bringing it out as well. That comic book style of, if you just get 1 success, like just pass it, then it's okay, you hit the guy. But if you get like 5 successes, that's 25 over the thing, you don't just hit the guy, you hit him and he goes flying for several blocks through buildings, etc. So you could have a bit more than that, like as a punch. You could have a bit more than that. You can do the narrative style. And I think that might work too. It's just up to the style of the GM. It's up to the style of the playing group itself. But I think this is a good... Like, we've done a few comic book ones recent times over the last few weeks. And I think this was up there in that style. I think this is absolutely an interesting one to look at. Um, if we do some comic book stuff on this channel, um, this is actually this going to be. I don't know if it's top of the range because I do want to use more of the Powered by Apocalypse style because it's a new style of game mastering, new style of running games. So the Sentinel comics and the Masks and Generation might be might be the top of the pile for ones we might have on the channel. But this is certainly an interesting game, certainly a good one. I do have one more comic book RPG in my collection, so we may do that next week. Although we might actually have a guest come in, and we might be just talking about Powered by Apocalypse games because it's not a system I'm familiar. Like I know from the outside, I've never had to play it. I'm very unfamiliar with it, but it's a system I really want to use, and we might be lining up someone that can actually talk from it as that was their first role playing game. So we might have that lined up next week. But as for this week, I know you just came in, Shadowna, um, Shadowner, possibly that's better. Shadowner. But we try to keep these really short and really quick because they're just a basic look at the game itself. We don't want to go into all the details, especially if you're using a core book like this. If we have a quick start rules, we'll go into more details because it's a bit more. This is what people want them to like. This is what the companies want people to read. So I try to keep them really short if we're using a core rule book, because we don't want to give people all the information they need to run the game without actually buying the book because we want people to actually go and get these books. But yeah, so this is Mutants and Masterminds Deluxe Heroes book, which is the third edition rules book, which combines a lot of the previous edition stuff into it as one single resource book. Yeah, there's still some amazing stuff in previous editions which you can work off. And I like that basic system, D20 plus modifiers versus DC, right across the board. You're only using a D20 for the entire system. That's really cool. That's really cool. I think character creation is going to be the hard part in this, and character progression the hard part in this, just because that became really complex really quickly. Because you got to think of a lot of things there. But if you get used to it, like anything, it'd work. Even with Shadowrun, if you get used to it, well, 5th edition at least, it would work. So I'm happy with this one. I'd be curious to actually play this. Possibly one, but I'd like to play. I miss playing. Um, so yeah, so I think that's it for this week. Thank you for coming in, Shadowner, Shadowner, oh Shadowner. It'll be close. But yeah, this is just essentially me ranting and whatnot. Again, we try to keep it short, but if we're using an actual quick start rules, because they're generally free on offer, or generally people want send them out just for people to get into the system, we'll spend more time. But using a core rule book, we try to avoid too much detail. We just go to the core mechanic and just touch on a couple of things. So yeah. we don't want to do it like it's a review, but we don't want to do spoilers and give people too much information, but more the basics and the core. So anyway, thanks for coming in. If you want to get a copy yourself, speak to your local game store. You can go to greenronin.com. You can also get the PDF at DriveThruRPG. You can get PDFs of pretty much everything in DriveThruRPG. These are not sponsors of the channel. They're just some amazing companies. I think Green Ronin has done amazing over the years with not out there, but different IPs. They support smaller IPs and different game systems, and they do them really well. So big shout out for Green Ronin. Again, not a sponsor, but I think they're really, really good in what they do. So my name's Carsha Goblin. This is the end of the week for me. We start again at this on Sunday night USA time with essentially Let's Plays or role-playing prep. We might be doing some role-playing prep because we've got a new show we started this week, which is A Guard's Tale. That's on Monday nights USA time. And that got really weird really quickly, but but it's absolutely the style of game we wanted to put on. And that's A Guard's Tale, which is essentially the players are playing city guard. Very slapstick, very comedy heavy, and very, very funny. So we have that on Mondays USA time. We then have we also have our our Smugglers Run past Starfinder game on Wednesdays, as well as alternating with our Baldur's Gate Descent to Avernus game, which is called Saints and Sinners. So come back for those ones. We do have a schedule. It may be a little bit out, but it's close. I'm from Australia. It's hard to do a schedule in USA time. But anyway, thanks for coming in. I'm going to sign off for now. And if you're watching this on YouTube, click like, subscribe, and all those other bits and pieces. Bye for now.